pony knowledge by. Oh, better. I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool, stable do. Your horse racing fantasy comes true. But no, stable do.
Download the Stable Duel app and play today.
Oh, it's that time again this week in Stable Duel. Gino Bacola here alongside my good buddy Barry Spears, the sniper. We are going to talk about Friday and Saturday Keeneland. Both days we'll have contests you can play for Stable Duel. As we record this on Thursday evening, I've already looked. There are multiple contests that you can jump into for Friday for Keeneland. So we're going to do our best to help you out as you play, race, win. Barry, buddy, how are things going on your end?
Hanging in there. Another week, another Keeneland Stable Duel event, and I'm happy.
Yeah, so we'll both give out a few best bets for Friday and for Saturday. We're always trying to give you some prices, some horses that might not be really obvious on your radar. So we're always looking for 5-1 and up in the no chalk zone. And remember, Stable Duel is an app that you can play daily horse racing contests. Some days they have free games. They've been really expanding too with the styles, the format. They have harness races now. We see jumps races now. So they have all sorts of options for you to play. And we love playing in these games at Keeneland. We play a lot of times at Gulfstream Park, at Santa Anita. They've got some contests at Woodbine. Wherever they have contests, we like to look. And right now for Keeneland, every day there's racing at Keeneland. You always have a couple options. So we dive into the daily racing form, past performances. Whenever you need to look, I always go to DRF. Make sure you head on over there. They have a lot of really great promotions. I'm going to have a couple videos coming out showing you about the new promotions. And they have the all access PPs that we're looking at. We can go, if you just like the regular DRF, if you're used to the form that you look, you can go classic. If you're someone who's like us and we like to be able to look at the charts and the replays and the stats, that's Formulator. And you can also click to Timeform US with the all access PPs, and you can get the Timeform US format, which is really cool now. So, and it's all right there, Barry. I think that's my favorite part of it, how easy it is just to click from one set of PPs to the next, back and forth. You don't have to open up a bunch of tabs, log in, log out the different stuff. That's why I like the past performances, because we're looking every day or at a bunch of races. We want to be able to save ourselves some time.
Yeah, I mean, with both of those two things right next to each other, I mean, it's so convenient, and you can see the formulator, and then you can flip over to the Timeform pace projector, which is excellent. They're both great tools, and I use them constantly.
And we're going to use them right now to talk about Friday, October the 20th out at Keeneland, just a couple weeks away from the Breeders' Cup. A good time to be a fan of racing, with a lot of big opportunities coming up in the rest of the Keeneland meet, and then on to the big weekend in just a few weekends with the Breeders' Cup. Let's talk about Keeneland. I'm going to start in race 5. Barry has plays in the 7th and the 10th. I'm also in the 7th, and I've got one in the 9th. Barry, I'm going to go, and I'm going to say this horse reminds me of one of my favorite movies. Smokey! Smokey! You take it up back there. Smokey! In Friday, just an all-timer. And I think this horse, Smokey, fits well. This is a 5.5 maiden special weight on the turf for 2-year-olds. And if we look at what Smokey has done so far in his career, his debut at Saratoga, going 5.5, really good. Like, a repeat of that effort puts him right on the wire. Mm-hmm. Following that, they stretch him out a little bit. And in his second start at Kentucky, it's not bad at all. On September the 3rd, he was inside. He was just a couple lengths off, but he was 6th. So he kind of like backed up to stay out of traffic. He got shuffled badly on the inside. And he ended up closing really well in between in a 3-way photo. He was just super unlucky that day. He comes back in his next start, and he has like a fast start. They tried to get more aggressive with him because he got in trouble the race before. And I think he just went a little bit too fast early on, going long and put a line through that now because he's cutting all the way back to 5.5, and he's going to be fitter. He has a little tactical speed too. I like him in this spot. I think he's fit. He's got some bottom compared to a lot of the others in here. If we can just get something close to that debut race, that'll put him right on the wire, and he's 8-1. So for stable duel, that'll cost us 3,000 in our stable duel lineup. He seems like a really nice fit to me in here.
Yeah, I like that angle that this horse is just cutting back. I really like that, especially in a race like this. But I will say about the favorite or a horse that's probably going to get bet is the Wesley Ward horse outside there, Spirits Mischief. Wesley Ward is, what Bob Baffert is to Delmar, Wesley Ward is to Keeneland.
Yeah.
And if you can beat him in any race, doesn't matter what, if you can beat him at any time on a card, you're going to make money. And I think this is a good opportunity to do that, especially, he kind of concentrates on these 5.5 furlong sprints on the turf. You always see a Wesley Ward horse in these events. And if you can beat them, and this one has a terrible post, you got to try to do it because you're going to make money.
Spirits Mischief will take a ton of that in here. I'm giving a look to Smokey. Debo, you got knocked up. That's the only problem about when you're trying to quote Friday, right? You got to stop a lot of parts.
Cussing.
I was going to say there's a lot of bleeping going on. But that was one of those movies I remember watching when I was young that like my cousin introduced me to. My cousin Vicky was a few years older than me. She was like my fun, bad influence cousin, the one that would get me into like all of the bad stuff a little like early on. Like all of my first memories of doing this or doing that were like, oh, that was Vicky took me over there. Or like, yeah, Vicky drove me in. I remember watching some of the movies like that and her being like, okay, don't tell your mom and don't tell my parents that I let you watch this with it, and so shout out to Vicky who got me to mature a little quicker in a lot of ways. Barry, you and I will both head to race number 7 for our next play. And it is another turf sprint race. We're going to go 5.5 on the turf in race number 7. And this one's a second level allowance here. Talk to us about who caught your eye in this one.
Yeah, this is another 5.5 furlong race. And who shows up here again is Wesley Ward. He has the 10, who is the morning line favorite, Shoot Out the Lights. And this horse has a ton of speed, but there's also some speed in there besides that horse. And as long as Wesley's horses aren't lone speed, I deem them beatable.
Yep. And this horse is going to be forced from the outside. There's speed just right to her outside also. And then a couple more to her inside. Cora Pearl will probably have to be forced. Like all 3 of these outside horses, probably all 4 of them are going to have to go.
Yep, and I'm hoping that does happen because I ended up on number 3. So
there we go together. I thought when I saw that you were in the 7, I thought we might be on this horse together. Talk to us a little bit about Soul Hook.
Yeah, I mean this horse hasn't done anything wrong on the turf. I know the 4 wins were at Colonial, but comparatively speaking, this horse raced just as good a chance as anybody in this race. And I think this horse might actually end up getting bet down quite a bit.
She's just like, she's one of those horses who you can see that for like a smaller barn that doesn't have as many horses, right? They just can get a little more aggressive with where they place the horses, right? They can place them at lower levels. And that's what we saw here. This horse debuted for maiden 35 on the dirt. Probably was better than that race, like showed speed and just went a little too fast early and then was off for a while. Like something might have went wrong right off the bat. And that's why they go even a little lower and try the grass. What's impressed me too, like the first 2 wins on the grass were more like speedy wins.
Right.
You were
better than the competition.
And just kind of run away. The last 2, in particular, the one on August the 18th, that was the one that was like, okay, wow, this horse is like pretty serious and means some business because she was right with the leaders and then she took back. And because of that, she ends up getting pushed all the way back, like 5 lengths out of it, actually probably like 7 lengths off at one point. She was 6th and she was like looking around for room. There wasn't much. And she moved between, she ducked inside in between again. So now she's given us she can win from off the pace a little more. She can win if things go wrong for her and she gets shuffled back. She can sit close if they're not going all that fast, but we think they are. I think she's just so adaptable.
Yeah, the versatility was the key for me.
Hmm.
Obviously this horse has wins on the lead and then off the pace. So I'm thinking this horse could be
Like,
anywhere they put.
I mean, look at the 4 wins are almost in 4 different ways. Like
Yeah.
one of them was like run off, the other was like sit and move early, the other one was really sit patiently, and then this last one was even farther on the turf race, was even farther back than the running line would suggest. Like at one point, this horse was like 7 lengths out, kind of looking around for room, and just boom, there was room here. Nope, none here. Move to this next hole. Oh, nothing here. Duck down to the inside again. Just like super handy. Soul Hope. Barry and I both land on this one.
Yeah,
Six.
and you know what? The rest of this field isn't super great
Nope.
either. That's another reason. The one, the two doesn't look all that great. Hasn't run well in a while. And coming off of layoffs, that horse obviously has issues. Probably on his best day, that would probably be the horse I would gravitate to, is the two redefined. But I can't trust that horse
No.
at all. And even the 10 hasn't been out since August. And
After a couple months off, and just seems
right,
like
this
I
is the
don't
time
know
to beat that horse.
if she wants to sit off, yeah, at all either. And she, like we said, she's going to be caught in between. So Soul Hope for Barry and me, 6-1 on the morning line. Will cost you 5,000 in your stable dual lineup. That's the par that you need. That's what you're looking for when you're building your lineup. Right about this price every race. Soul Hope. And like I said, if I'm betting this race, if she were 4-1, like 7-2 or above, I'd think that's probably fair for her. There's probably a few horses that'll be like in that 4-1 range in here.
Yeah, yeah. You figure the Wesley Ward horse would probably be around the morning line, 9 to 5, 8 to 5 ish.
Yep.
So redefined and Soul Hope will probably be really
In that
close in
next
betting.
tier. I
Right.
agree. Yep. And we lean with Soul Hope. I'm going to go to the 9th for my next Friday play, and then Barry will close this out with the bailout Barry play in the 10th and final. So for me, race number 9. Oh, shout out to Tonka, old wrestler in the 1990s, early 90s there, the Native American wrestler for WWF. And then he turned bad guy. He was in the corporation with the $1 Million Man, some matches with Lex Luger. Got to get in a wrestling plug anytime that I can. In this race, Barry, we're going on the grass. We're going a mile on the turf. This is a 3rd level allowance race. It's one of those races that's $130,000 purse. It's like bigger than
Oof,
some stakes
brutal.
races you'll find. Easter, super honest, like super solid. I don't have any knocks on him. He's just going to be a little short in this race. I do think he's the horse to beat, but a horse that I think will get a similar trip and will just be a much better price. And I think because his speed figures are a little low, he may be a bigger price. That's the 10 King Max, who I land on
Okay.
here. So this is
That's
a
what's up.
horse who came from overseas and ran really well in some spots overseas. After a big victory, stepped up into Group Stakes Company and was facing Group Stakes Company 4 times. 3 of them were not bad against legitimate horses and was great. Group 3 placed in 1. And then the final race of 2022, we can just eliminate that race because he was off for a long time following that. So just put a line right through. He shows back up like 10 months later at Monmouth Park, and he wins easily coming from off the pace. In his next start, he wins again really easily. And then they go up to Woodbine. They take a shot on a synthetic track and a graded stakes race. He's only 4-1 in that spot, coming off a couple big wins. And in that race, he just hooks a horse named Tyson, who goes wire to wire. This is a pretty nice horse.
Yeah,
He went
he's
over
nice.
to Saratoga. He was 3rd in the Jockey Club Gold Club. We've talked about him a few times, Barry, when we previewed some of those Woodbine days. Like he's not done a whole lot wrong in his career,
No,
So
he's definitely a tough tough foe
and
when you go against him. But the thing about King Max is the trainer does this quite a bit. I see George Delgado do this kind of maneuver a lot, where he brings a horse or has a horse from overseas, runs them, they run well. Whatever happens, they get laid off and then come back, and they come back running.
yep.
So I would expect the same thing for King Max.
His 2 races were good. Then his synthetic race, you can make an excuse for it. He's chasing a lone speed winner, a really good horse, and the 3rd place finisher comes back to win their next start out of that one. Won the Grade 3 Durham Cup following that. So we're talking just about a lot of stakes quality horses. And remember, he's in an allowance race. It's a strong allowance race, but he should get the trip in here because I'm looking at the way the race shapes up, sort of going through the field. You've got from the inside to Tonka's really fast. He's got to go. Xavier Dave's a little bit more of a presser. Cool House has actually shown a little bit of speed. Main Event wants to go, no doubt about it. You've got one or two more to the outside. Strong Quality has to go. One Dimensional just really wants to go. So you're looking right there at possibly even the 11 Forever Super, who's drawn towards the outside, and definitely the 12 Gunton Row. 5 horses-ish that want to be close to or right on the lead. So it sets up for Easter, who's the favorite, but he's 5-2. And you look at a horse like King Max, who he's progressing, but his last start, they took a shot on a synthetic surface, just put a line right through it. If he was able to take one more step forward off of like his 89 buyer and just progress slightly off of that, he would be right there with Easter and some of the races that Easter has been running recently in these like low 90s speed figure races. So yeah, I think he's going to get the trip. I think he's a little sneaky with the muddied up race last time out, but we know these horses at Woodbine and he exits a good race. And as Barry was pointing out, we've seen this is a good barn. They know what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely.
They're just not as big, quite as big on the national scale, but they pop with some big horses now and then. And they really know how to campaign horses and what to do. I like King Max at 8-1 for my final Friday play. Barry, you're gonna go ahead.
Just one of those things, as a not an absolute would be a bad way to put this, but one of those racing kind of mantras that are out there. When you see in the past performances, when you see 2 horses that have speed, you want to pick one. When you see more than 2, you look for alternatives.
Yep, exactly.
and that kind of sticks with me. It's not an absolute, but it does ring true a lot.
100%, because you're definitely right. Because when there's only 2, the difference between 2 speeds and 3 speeds in a race is just night and day. And day. Because the 2 speeds, it's so often that one of them sits back, one of them is a little slower than the other, one of them gets a really good aggressive ride, the other's a little flat-footed. But when you have that 3 or 4 and you really are it just makes you feel, sometimes you're wrong, sometimes it doesn't play out that way, but you feel like you're like you studied for the test, right? And you feel good about it going in. Like,
absolutely.
Okay, here's who I know how to eliminate. Here's who I know. These are the couple horses I can pick from. And let's always try to pick the best price if we can.
Right. And that's kind of how I approach it. I do the whole pace, speed, class, form, and then it kind of work my way from there. That's why I don't really spend a way too inordinate amount of time handicapping. I spend a lot more time constructing bets. But if you can get a process down where you can kind of wade through the nonsense and get to where you want to be, that's probably the best approach.
Yep. And it's so cool when we talk, we chat a little different about some of them, but the process, I love when we talk out the races. And then one of my other favorite people to do it when she comes on the shows with me is Emily Gullickson. We'll go through, especially on the big days, and kind of like, just like we're saying, talk out the process. Here's the horses that kind of fit, but then like these 2 are too short. They're not even going to be on our radar. Like they can get the trip and win, but like they're a little short. They're just not worth the play in here. Like now let's isolate these 2 or 3 horses that feel like this is their time. This is their race. They're coming into it at the nice like form, second off, third off, whatever it is. And they're going to be the right price. And that's what you're looking for, I think.
That's when all the elements come together, and you're like,
especially when you're
one shot.
If you're the type of person that's probably listening to us here, if you're the type of person that plays like Barry and I, and probably most of us do, where we're not betting with thousands and hundreds of thousands to try to win on like short 2-1s or 9-5. Some people do that if you have the money and you can quickly like flip it around and you're confident on those horses. There's no problem with that. But I think for most people, the fun part about horse racing is how you can play with a little to win a lot. And it can be a really challenging puzzle. And the fact that we're not just using 5 by 5 by 5 by 5 in every race, and you are, hey, I don't like this favorite. We're really going to chuck this horse out, like let's play against them. that's what I think most of us are trying to do in horse racing, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just like, the stock market. You want to get in low and get out high.
Exactly.
Make your bet for, 20, $30. You want to get out and hopefully that can turn into, $1,100.
And as we
Um,
oh yeah, go ahead.
that's exactly what we're in this for, and me and you in particular kind of play similarly
Mhm.
in that fashion. But, there's something to be said to hone the craft in that way. And then if you get confident once you do those things and you go with the get in low, get out high kind of, mentality, you can always raise those limits
Mhm.
and play bigger that way, and you keep those good habits as you go along.
Exactly. You play multiple times or you just play into some bigger pools maybe, or maybe you are days where you raise your budget a little bit, but it's still in a I'm going to throw in a few extra prices, right? And not
Yep.
play chalkier, right? Hey, on a Breeders' Cup day or days where there's a bigger pool, maybe I only play a $50 pick four normally, but this day I'm going to play for 80 or 100, but I'm still not going to just throw in a bunch of bad chalks,
Right.
right? Like my
Exactly.
approach is still going to be good. And so, yeah, that's what it comes down to. Just trying to develop those good habits as best you can. I've actually learned this a lot more, Barry, in just taking that same approach in more sports betting too, because in sports betting, it's so funny. You everybody will only remember what you just saw. And that's
True.
what everybody wants to like, especially in a game like football where there's only 16, 17, and it's once a week. So you have that game. And then for the next 4, 5, 6 days, that's all you're talking about is what happened that one time. Not like baseball or basketball where maybe the next day or 2 days later, you can kind of get that bad taste out of your mouth and you can sort of flip it so that the narratives aren't quite as hot and cold. But like, football, we just saw a team like the 49ers kick the crap out of the Cowboys 2 weeks ago on Sunday Night Football. And it was like the 49ers are the best team. How are they ever going to lose? They've got an incredible defense. Their offense is amazing. They've got everything. And then the next week, they run into the Browns and like three key guys get hurt. And all of a sudden, they can't even move the ball at all. It's just one of those things where it's so funny because everybody would have wanted to play the 49ers. And that was a game where the spot there was definitely the Browns, just sort of knowing that the Browns were going to have a good defense. The 49ers kind of got fluffed up and puffed their chest out because they saw how good they were against Dallas. It's really fun when you mention it, and that's what my buddy Eric, who does a lot of the shows with me too, he always says when we're doing the games, buy low, but that's what you want to do. This is a team that's got really, they're at the lowest value point right now.
Yeah, I mean, you would think anybody that plays long shots should always have kind of an edge in that regard because they're
Mm-hmm.
not looking for what I call the Janet Jackson, the "What have you done for me lately?" They're looking for something deeper
Yep,
in
exactly.
prior games that would come
That's
out
what
in the next game. So
That's what everything is about. It's like honestly, one of my major approaches is I think when people look at the races sometimes and they see like they'll go quickly and they'll be like up 20-1 and they just pass a horse. Like those are the horses I want to dive the most into.
hell yeah.
Right. Like, and so it's funny because I see people or I hear people sometimes talk and it's like, wow, my approach is so opposite of that. It's like, oh, this 20-1 shot has no shot. I want to find why does this horse have a shot? Let me deep, and sometimes they don't, but I just hear horses get dismissed like that. And it's like, I'm trying to find
Right.
the
You're looking
reasons.
for I call those separator horses because
Exactly.
when you're in multi-pools, that's the thing. You need a horse that separates you from everybody else. And those are the ones, those 20-1s that nobody's looking at. Those are the ones you include on your ticket, and those are the ones that, you know, make your payout grow exponentially.
Talk to us about race number 10 on Friday, my man. Close us out on the
Yeah,
Friday
it's,
card.
an inexpensive claimer, 20,000
Fair.
non-winners of two, but the
Very
purse is
politically correct there.
43,000. Yeah,
Yeah.
gotta be. Don't want owners or trainers coming after me.
Exactly.
Um, but there seems to be a lot of speed here. The outside horses, in particular, the 11 Captivated Drama. Thank God in Greyhound, tons of speed. Mahoney Road, who's 4-1 on the line, show a lot of speed too. Haya, speed.
Yeah.
I mean, those alone
We'll be
should
flying.
right should have enough speed to help the horse that I like, who is number 7, Libertango.
Nice.
Um, he's coming off a couple of efforts on the turf, which doesn't bother me at all. The reason I like him is he came back running. He was off from June 20th to August 30th, and he came back running. Workouts seem to indicate that he does like the dirt. He's got a couple nice works at Keeneland, September 11th, September 21st, that were pretty quick. And this should put this horse in a good position to catch a great trip, because
Yeah,
I'm sure Wayne Catalano is going to tell him not to go and get into a speed duel, because this
completely
horse is
agree.
fast enough,
He
but
he
he's
can do
also
it sort
good
of
enough to
naturally, but
exactly.
and honestly, it's a little hidden because at Turfway when he broke his maiden, he was down inside and he's just like better than that field, right?
Yep,
So he he
that's
wins
all it
that
was.
race. Then he comes back at Keeneland, and now those were a couple tough races, especially
Way
the
too
first one.
over his head.
He's just in, he's in a first level allowance race against like real tough horses, and he was 58-1 that day. He came back in his next start. It was a little softer spot, and he showed speed again, but the race was pretty strong. There were multiple next out winners that come out of it. They tried the turf a couple times, and it's a good sandwich spot where now he's going to come back second start off the short break. And what's nice about him is we don't want him to be on the lead, but we know he naturally has enough speed to where he can just stay within striking range. He doesn't have to be like way out of it.
Right, and that's going to be the trip here, because the horse that's the favorite on the morning line, Dual Monarchy, looks like a dead closer. He just doesn't run early. I mean, granted, he is dropping down into this level of competition. Um,
But if they're going
but
that quick and he's
yes, he's going
like,
to get parked. And,
mhm,
and I think that this horse is probably going to get a better trip based on that. I mean, projection wise, this horse should be right out of that first flight.
mhm,
And if let's just say, one of those 4 horses on the outside just doesn't want to go and kind of go for the lead, that's still okay, because this horse is fast enough to create his own trip in that regard. And the drop down is perfect. I think all systems are go.
Libertango to close it out on the Friday card at Keeneland. So there's a look at Friday at Keeneland. Let's pull up some Saturday Keeneland as we get you all ready for the Saturday Keeneland card. So, Barry, I'm going to have 3 plays on Saturday. I'm going to be looking at races 4, 7, and 8 for Keeneland for Saturday. Let's
Nice.
share
I'm
the
at
other
4,
part of our
6, and
screen.
9.
Okay, so we'll go pretty similar in a few different races at Keeneland. StableDuel.com. You can find the schedule there. I've been doing some write-ups too, so sometimes Bree will post those. If you ever want to kind of get a little bit of help on the written form, you can check out the website. There's also help sometimes with the harness racing contest, with the jumps contest from all sorts of different people. So, Barry, we are both in race number 4 for Saturday as we look at the DRF past performances. 4th race, we will go a mile on the turf course. Start us off in this one, my friend. Who are you looking at?
This is a pretty decent event here. You got some horses that are not, upper tier stakes horses, but most of these horses are really stakes caliber
Yep.
horses. So, you know, um, this is another one where it looks like the pace might get a little hot. Do You Love Me has some speed and will probably have to go, just based on the post position. Over, I don't know how you say that,
Urv.
but yeah, that horse definitely needs to go. Stretching out, coming from Kentucky Downs, I would gather this one would be placed on the lead. Sweet Danny Girl does her best running on the front end. So there's quite a bit of speed here. And honestly, it doesn't leave much else. I mean, taken to the cleaners has a lot of speed. Via Reggio will probably want to be forwardly placed, but just won't be on the lead. I ended up on number 5, Braganza, first time on the turf. And I think this horse might have a little bit of an edge just based on the trip that she's going to get.
we're looking for the same exact trip with horses, and our horses are right next to each other with the 5 and the 6. Because exactly the way you're mapping this race out, that's exactly what I'm hoping for with Lady Hideaway.
Right,
To
and
sit,
those were the two that I kind of narrowed it down to, and I just took the bigger price.
yeah, and I just don't think, because I don't think Lady Hideaway is as fast as some of the others. So I think she could end up in a really nice trip, in a really nice spot.
Plus, she
She,
has turf experience that
yeah,
my horse doesn't have, but that's
but
where
kind
I'm
of the
taking
built
the
into the
gamble.
price. Yeah, and
Mhm.
it's built into the price there for you. And you can just eliminate the good track 2 starts back. Like toss the races on
The
the
good
off
races, she's
tracks.
awful. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
like
terrible.
off track, didn't like, off track, didn't like. And then what are you left with? The last 3 races or victories, a
You
runner
would
up
think this
effort.
horse would be the favorite
Yeah,
if you just looked at that.
yeah, if you just eliminate a couple of those. What's cool with your DRF past performances too, you could take a look and see that her dam was successful on the turf, was a turf winner. Her dam actually debuted sprinting on the turf and won the career debut, then came back in career start number 2 and was stakes placed. And in the third start, didn't I think got pulled up basically in that race, and that was towards the end, but showed some turf ability. Yeah, this is a horse who really fits. I think a very sneaky one as well. Game Girl, her half sibling, multiple winner on the turf. You have Gran, her half sibling, who only raced once on the turf, didn't win but finished third.
Ran
Was
pretty
not
good.
bad that day. La Viexa, turf winning sib. So there's just a lot of turf in there as well.
Yeah, I and Eddie Keneally does a good job with horses like this. So I think this one is going to be primed for a good effort, and I like the first time turf angle because it's going to throw everybody off. People are like, "Oh, there's better horses in here, ones that have turf form, so on and so forth," and you dismiss horses like this who probably have a better than average chance to win, better than their morning line chance.
So Bragaza for Barry, for me, it was Lady Hideaway, was third here last year or like earlier this year in a similar spot in an allowance race just like this on April the 16th. And that was in the first start off the bench and ran really well that day. Following that race, 3 straight races against Stakes Company. And only one of them wasn't that great. You know, the Mint Julep was not bad, finished 4th that day against Tough Company, came back in the Anchorage and was 3rd on yielding turf that day after flashing speed. And then at Ellis Park on August the 6th, didn't really, kind of had some trouble, was a little bit wide. It just wasn't a great trip. Came back on September the 15th at Churchill Downs. Fine start, was just behind the leaders, moved to the inside, was waiting, was traveling well, had nowhere to go, tried to move in between, then had to try the rail, had no room until it was late. Unlucky. Those were the notes from one of the best note track trip takers that I that out there, me, you know? So like Lady Hideaway for me, Barry, is one that I think fits really well. So we're both looking for that trip. I think with the speed that Barry has mentioned, there's 3 or 4 at least that want to be on the lead in here. We want the horses that can sit behind them, but that don't have to be coming from way, way out of it and dealing with the traffic and all the trouble back there.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is kind of, I hate to say it, it probably will end up being sort of a rider's race because the
Yeah.
field isn't too big. Hopefully, there's no scratches. But this should be a really good race to watch also. I think.
So, Barry, you are going to look at race number 6, I believe, on
Mhm.
Saturday. Then I'll go to the 7th. Talk to us about race number 6. It is the stakes race, the Perryville. We've got verifying favored from the rail.
Yep. And I am trying to beat verifying, and I'm also trying to beat confidence game. You know, I was under the impression that verifying was going to run in the Breeders' Cup,
Oh, I know. Like, I mean, at least
at
in the
least in
dirt
the
mile
sprint.
or those
Yeah,
sprint, right? Sprint, dirt
one or
mile.
the
Like,
other. Yeah.
this just, and because I have him in a fantasy league, and I think they said that like now they're gonna try to plan like for the Malibu at the end of the year as like a test, but that seems like you
Seems
can
a
run
little
the
odd.
Breeders' Cup and then do that after for a horse who's been in some big races against big horses throughout the bulk of the year. It just there's another horse at Santa Anita that reminds me of this on Saturday. in Dua. It's in the stakes
Oh
race.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
Baffert
yeah.
horse. And it's like,
Mhm.
my whole thing is just, this couldn't have been the plan all along.
No way. There's something that had to go wrong for this horse to end up in this race because it's not graded, first of all. I mean, and
It
really the
just,
only bad race this horse has run was the Derby, and that's kind of
I know he's
a
been really
toss
honest.
in general. He's
He's
been
been really
really good.
honest. He had trouble in the Rebel that day too. He's kind of in traffic and got shuffled. Just eliminate the Derby. The other races are good. Like, he fits. You feel like between 7 and a mile, he'd be really good. And
Right.
maybe next year, the type of horse who can go a little longer, right, when they get older and then stretch out a little more. But yeah, I was disappointed to see him show up in here because I figured, oh yeah, dirt mile, sprint,
Right.
but
He's good enough to do either. And
to
it's just weird that he ends up here, and that's what is kind of gave me the question mark,
take a swing against.
Right, because he's down on the rail, which is not the
So he
greatest
has to
place to be
go,
either.
really,
Right.
and like that, he hasn't been that kind of a horse either. I think he just likes sitting off a little more,
I
So,
think so too.
and
And he's not the quickest at this particular distance.
no, no,
So I think there's a chance that he can get headed up and beat. Venkman has some speed, and I don't think that really Venkman was kind of forced to
no,
sit back
this
at
is a nice
Del
horse.
Mar.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's a very very nice horse, and I think those two are really going to hook up, and that led me to the 3 horse post time.
sure.
I think this pace might get a little heated. If not, verifying probably wins for fun. If
This
nobody
horse is
runs
good
with
though.
verifying,
Post
he's
time.
probably gonna, yeah. If verifying doesn't get any pressure, he's probably going to win. If he gets pressure, post time, I think is a lot better than he looks on paper, and his buyer numbers
This
seem a little lower, but
But I
he's
will say
capable of better.
this happens at the lower tracks. I'm
Hmm.
not trying to be that, like, but this, like,
No, it's true.
speed figures are awesome and they're helpful, but we see them sometimes get raised and get higher. It's like they're just at the lower tracks. You're not going to see as many of the consistently big figures. It happens on synthetic surfaces at smaller tracks too. Generally, the big figures are on the bigger circuits where you're going to see. And I think this horse is better than those numbers might suggest. And they're a lot of gear down, like,
Right, he's winning by open lengths every time.
and
So
which is funny because it's also different when you do it like as a closer versus a speed horse, because when you do it as a speed horse, a lot of times you run these horses off their feet, and that's when you get these monster speed figures and you win by, like, this horse is coming from way out of it and then getting geared down in sprints, which is crazy.
right, and that's what stuck out to me. And even his last race, he probably needed it. That's probably why he
Yeah.
get the
This is the
step
first start
slow,
in
and he
9
and
months.
and he won for fun. I mean, granted, it was a much lower level, but he needed the race. It was clear. Um, but I can't say, just looking at, you know, let's look at Ray's Kane. I can't say that Ray's Kane is that much better than the 3.
Nope. I agree. Completely
And
agree.
one's 4-1 and the other's 15-1. I'm going to take the 15-1, especially in a race like this where they're going to crush verifying. Verifying is probably going to be about 1-5.
Well, what's nice in Stable Duel too, for example, in this type of a race, like, this is a horse who we feel pretty confident in is going to be coming late and passing some horses late and should step forward, second start off the bench. And in this field, you hitting the board even in Stable Duel, you're picking up some points. This horse is only going to cost you 500 with that 15-1 morning line. So yeah, this
I
is
mean, I almost went to the 6, and that one looks similar.
the same
And
type of trip.
but I think the morning line is a little off here, and I don't think it's going to be bet the way they're
Yeah.
showing. I think
In
a
this,
lot of these horses behind verifying are going to be around the same price.
mhm.
So like confidence game, 6-7-1. Post time, probably about 10-1. Ray's Kane is probably going to be
Float
up,
up a little bit. I agree.
right, to about 6. Venkman's probably going to be second choice. That
Yep,
that
and then
that's
Loyal
what I was
Company
thinking.
comes down a little bit too, I think.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree with you. And we look at the stakes race, one of the stakes races on the Saturday card, the Paravel, with verifying as the favorite from the inside. I'm going to move to race number 7, and then we'll each have one more play following this one. 7th race is a maiden special weight going 1 mile and a 16th. We have 3-year-olds. These are the boys. And looking at the way this race shapes up, going the mile and a 16th, I think the 3 dissolved, will be forwardly placed, showed speed, and then was sitting close in the second start. We're going to get some speed from Malibu Springs, who showed tactical speed and has been forwardly placed in all 3 starts. Ben Franklin is a horse who's stretching out. I would not be shocked to see him a little bit closer. Royal Court has shown positional speed. I don't think he's as fast as some of the others, but his better races have come when he's shown speed. So that usually makes me think horses will when those have been their best results when they've done it. You've got Mount Craig, who wants to be forwardly placed in here. Furious Anger showed sprint speed and now will be stretching out. So this horse will be flying for sure. So, I mean, I'm looking at Create Trouble as another one who's going to be flashing speed in here.
Oh, yeah.
This looks like there could be a really honest pace. And I come back to a horse who is just a stone cold closer on paper, but I think is a little deceiving. The 2 Single Dot Yacht, who got some money in the debut, but something went wrong that day. Slow, and then just didn't really fire and was off. And then when he shows back up, it's sloppy racetrack. Actually doesn't run badly either. He comes closing and he finishes 4th after being like 18, 20 lengths back early on in the race. And way, way out of it. Then on July the 16th, he's actually runs pretty well. He shows a little more early speed that day, and he's kind of stuck down on the inside. He gets shuffled. It was not a bad effort at all. Off for a couple months, shows back up on September 21st. And at Churchill in that day, he was not far out of it early, but he was in between horses. He gets shuffled back to 8th. He ends up losing like 3 lengths of positioning or so. And he made this big move. It was a pretty solid 3rd, and it was just a weird running line. Like you can see, I think he's going to get the trip in here. I think in this race, he's just going to finally get some pace to run at with all those speed horses that we looked at. He's going to go second start back off the short little break. Hernandez knows this guy well. He sort of figured him out. And I don't think he's as stone cold of a closer as it might have looked. Like that
No, he's
sloppy.
improved.
Yeah.
It looks
just
like he's improved.
tactically, right? Just like the sloppy track race is the one that throws you off because he was so far back in that race. But if you can take that one out of it, on July 16th, and in particular, September 21st, he had a lot better beginnings than just the running line would look. So I think
there's something
more
that went weird in that race on July 16th. And you see
Mhm.
how he kind of went way back he was 10 lengths back and then closed again.
Yep.
I didn't watch that replay.
He got the shuffle badly.
Yeah,
inside,
he had to in order to go
because he
back
drew the rail
10
that day
lengths.
and he was sitting close. And like you could see that they wanted to get him a lot closer. And that's the thing I think with him and looking at him.
Blinkers
Blinkers. And I think just like some bad racing luck in a couple of these races, like early something went wrong, then a sloppy track. It was like, what the heck's going on? I'm on a muddy. And then he started kind of figuring it out. And then after, he's been more forward than it seems. Speed figures, he's right there. Like with this group, he fits really well with them. So the races he's exiting are strong too. And I just think he gets the trip in here. Single Dot Yacht. It's also fun to say as we move Barry to where are you going to close things?
Raven
out?
Run.
Raven Run, race number 9. So I'll actually go before you then. So I'm going to go race number 8, and we can both talk about the Raven Run a little bit. So in race number 8, I'm just using this really honest, consistent horse in Lovely Princess. She's 5-1 on the morning line. So her 2 races at Keeneland were excellent. Both of them were wins. And she sat the exact types of trips I'm hoping that she's going to sit in here. Like she sat 3rd, nicely saved ground from the rail. So her races on the turf, she's been on the grass 9 times. She has 3 wins, 4 seconds, and 2 fourths. She's literally never run a bad race. And the 2 fourths weren't even bad. She was 4th beaten 2 3/4, and she was 4th beaten a length and a quarter in a race where she had legitimate trouble at Kentucky last year in September of 2022. And the other couple races where she didn't hit the board were on the dirt when she finished 4th and in her career debut. I mean, she's got 3 consecutive seconds. All of them were in stakes. What I like is that it's not like she was the beaten favorite in all those races. One of them she moved early and she just got nailed. Like she just got beat by a horse who was a little bit better that day. She's really honest. And I think she's just going to save all the ground at a very fair price of 5-1. So I'm
She's
giving
been
her
keeping the best company out of anybody in here.
by far. And just to eliminate her stakes races. The last 2 non-stakes races were wins at Keeneland going a mile and an eighth, and this is a mile and a 16th. You know, just take the turf, take the stakes out, take the stakes out, take the stakes out, take the stakes out, and you've got a Keeneland win and a Keeneland win. Like going this type of trip, and I think she just sits a really nice trip from the inside. I like her a lot.
Yeah, you got to feel good about this pick. I like this one too.
Lovely Princess at 5-1. Barry, let's talk about the Raven Run. It is a grade 2. It's a sprint for 3-year-old fillies. We will have some of the major players in here. Vava, who's super honest 3-year-old filly for Cherie DeVoe. You've got Dazzling Blue, who's very, very quick, comes in from Saratoga. You've got Alva Star, who's also really quick, but a couple quick horses that are right next to each other.
Yeah, and there's 2 more, Lady Radler and Agent Peace.
Yep.
So you know where I'm going with this.
Yep.
All that speed up front. There's horses coming from behind, and I ended up on the 3 Non de Plume, who's 20-1 on the morning line. Probably won't get that, but man, this horse runs every time, and will get a good setup. You know what really stuck out to me is that Pratt lands here.
Absolutely.
Of all people, and he's one of the best judges of pace of anybody in the world, and I mean that, in the world. I think he's just going to have this horse in the right spot. You know, people are going to gravitate away from this horse because his numbers are on paper low. You know, his buyer number is 77, 73 in his last 2 races. People are going to overlook that when you have horses like Vaha running 90s.
And the thing is about this is kind of piggybacking that point we were making a second ago. Her first 2 races were on the synthetic, and those figures always come up lighter.
Yep.
Always. And
Absolutely.
we've seen Turfway the last few years become a lot stronger. Horses that exit Turfway go elsewhere and do really, really well. In particular, Keeneland. It's been a really competitive track. It's been bigger fields, and the racing quality is really improved. And I'm like looking for horses from Turfway a lot of times because of that, because I know they're going to be a little bit like overlooked, a little bit better value than some of the others in here.
Yeah, because that Turfway meet was elevated because of the purse structure.
Absolutely, 100%.
And you're getting better horses and better trainers.
Just better quality overall.
Just better quality. Yeah, that's exactly it.
It's a domino effect, right? The purses get raised, and everybody wants to send their horses to run for more money, and then the fields get bigger. It's all more competitive, and then when those horses go elsewhere, they face tougher company. They're like a little more seasoned and battle tested. And in this exact case, because this is a transfer from a synthetic surface, like these horses have lighter and lower figures, but we know that the quality of racing they've faced has been really good.
Right. And you look at a horse like, you know, in comparison, you look like at Dazzling Blue. These horses look similar on paper.
I know, but that one big number sort of sticks out at you, you know?
Right.
Like,
and that's like the whole thing we were talking about before, the Janet Jackson. What have you done for me lately?
Yep.
The horse did it, but then regressed on the next one and got beat as a favorite, no less.
And you almost wonder, like, because the horse kind of couldn't keep up early with Alva Star or wasn't able to get to the lead, I think they're going to even be more aggressive with Giroux jumping back on, right? And just be like, hey, it didn't work when we were a length behind. Let's see if we can either get in front or just try to battle, you know?
Exactly, and that's going to heat up this pace, and I think it just falls right into Non de Plume's lap.
Yep.
You know, and when you run perfect trips, you're going to get an inflated buyer anyway. So even if, like, let's just say Non de Plume gets a perfect trip, he's probably going to get a number similar to to what his counterpart, or you know, his opposite, Dazzling Blue, would have got. You know, in that victory ride race. So, you know, that's how those things kind of, you can see the patterns. And that's what you try to exploit in conjunction with the morning lines.
Nom de plume for Barry. And yeah, I think like of the shorter prices, as we were talking about, like Vava is exactly what I had done in the race. Like she will get a nice trip. I prefer her of the shorter prices. Like she's super honest. She's a nice sprinter. You can see to her form just makes sense. They went a little longer a couple times. Didn't want to go that far. She hooked up with Pretty Mischievous. Then they cut her back. She's run really well since cutting back. And like this is where she fits. But if you're looking at horses that are going to get similar type trips, like give me the 20 to 1 all day long
right
over
versus a 3 to 1.
Absolutely. And that's like no knocks on Vava, who should get a great trip. And like if you're playing a pick 4, I wouldn't tell you to leave Vava out. I would tell you to leave out Alva Star in here. That's how I play in this race.
And,
to try to
and Dazzling
Blue.
Blue.
Both of the one-dimensional speed type horses who I don't think are going to be wanting to go battle and then have to go longer here at 7 furlongs,
right.
So,
and I think Rattler you could throw in that.
Oh dude, there's 4 of them. There's 4 in a row, like we said.
I know.
6, 7 Rattler and Ancient Peace is not like Ancient Peace has been going a little longer, so maybe she's not quite as quick, but I don't think she's in this race to come from 5 or 6 lengths out of it,
Definitely not.
So and just like the way she's been training in the mornings, like they're getting speed into her to want her to go in a fun renewal of the Raven Run, grade 2 on Saturday. That'll do it for me and Barry in this week in Stable Duel. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. And we'll be back next week. Probably do the same thing again where we talk some Friday and Saturday. And then, man, like the week after that, is that the Breeders' Cup?
Oh, man.
Wow.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So like
wait.
2
I'm
weeks,
excited.
we'll be previewing some Breeders' Cup stuff. So who knows, that week things will be a little bit different. I got to figure out the schedule because I'm not sure if I'll be able to do all the different guests this year. I might have to have Barry help me out with a few more races and you and me do a few and here and there. But my schedule I might be out at the track because I'm going to be doing some work for DRF. So I think starting the next Saturday, the 28th, I will have to be out there on Saturday in the mornings because that'll be like the last work for a lot of horses the week before the Breeders' Cup. So a lot like we'll be out there in the morning, I think doing some any kind of footage, filming any kind of works, getting like notes and maybe a few videos and interviews from trainers. And then I think Monday is the draw of the Monday the 30th, I believe is the draw. And then we'll have the fields out there. So I'm probably going to be out there in the morning early every day that week, I think.
Nice.
And then just getting footage and then helping edit some stuff. So schedule will still be up in flux, but I will definitely have to get Barry to help me out with at least a few of the Breeders' Cup races at some point in the week there. My friend, tell everybody else what you going on. We got Going in Circles.
Yep.
Big Mondays with Chuck.
Yep. Every Monday. Usually the episode comes out later on Monday night into Tuesday, but we definitely tweet it out or X post it out. Is that how you say that now? But yeah, we're starting to do some things there. We get a new website coming up. We're gonna, do some more things, get more involved, if you will. And then we're involved a little bit with the Game of Silk stuff, and so there's a lot going on, especially heading into the new year. So it should be fun.
Okay, with Halloween coming up, I'm doing all my Halloween movie watches right now while I'm like putting stuff in the background because I'm such a nerd. I'll like make a list of like all the movies I want to watch throughout the month, and I'll like figure out where they are and what streaming services and all over. So give me something like either a scary movie or something that's one of your favorites, like scary Halloween, anything like that.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Gotta be right,
It's
absolutely.
my favorite.
And what's nice about that is that you can watch it right before Halloween and then again right before Christmas. Boom, you can get it twice. It's one of the few. It's one of the few that you can use for
Swiss
Halloween
Army knife
and for
movie.
Christmas. So it's amazing. You basically got from October 30, like right around now, all the way till Christmas time, and right after to use the night.
Addams Family too.
Addams Family is great. Those are fun. They're a blast. I just watched those two, and that's what's cool nowadays with the services. They've all got the like Halloween section where you can click on everything. Peacock, if you're into scary movies, Peacock has like a lot of the old scary like franchises. One of my favorites is because they're funny, and the Scream ones are funny.
Oh yeah,
they're just a blast because they're like
cartoony.
Fun. Yeah, and they're silly. So happy Halloween in a few weeks to everyone. I like the holiday season, and my son's getting a little older now, so he kind of can understand.
He's ready.
yeah, like he's starting to understand the stuff. We've got some homework tonight. We got to decorate, not a real pumpkin, but just on a card, like a piece of paper pumpkin. He's got to draw and go all over it. And then we'll do our pumpkin carving in the next few days. I love to make the seeds, layer them up with salt. One of my favorite things. So I'm getting in Halloween mode. I hope all of you guys have a fantastic weekend out there. Barry, my friend, thanks so much for helping me out again this week. And as we say goodbye, we encourage all of you to download that Stable Duel app to play in the Stable Duel games this weekend. And we say hello to Joey Cleveland. Take it away, buddy.
Better, you want to spread your pony, not